exciting opportunities coming, like GPU computing and so on. But anyway, I will let Antonio to take over and continue on this subject.
I was just going to ask you a quick question now. Could you tell us a little bit about the geography and the customer base that you have, so that we'll probably be able to correlate it with the trends that you see in Europe versus US versus India.
Well, so most of my customers, at least, are within online advertising. I used to work in a company called OpenX, which one of the things that the company used to do is open source online advertising software, which is very popular. Like around 100,000 websites around the globe are using this type of software. And one thing that I've kept seeing, especially in online advertising, is that the small companies quite often were able to rapidly grow. Because you can start from 2 or 3 people, and as soon as you gain new customers, like if your customer is eBay, suddenly the amount of traffic and the amount of data that you have to process grows from thousands of impressions per day to millions and tens or hundreds of millions impressions per day. So because of this, online advertising is one area which is definitely dealing with many big data problems all the time.
Antonio, would you like to?
So hello everyone, nice to be here with you. So my name is Antonio and I work for CERN. CERN is the European Laboratory for Particle Physics. Well, for me, I think it's a little bit difficult to talk about past, present, and future in this world because, well, it moves so fast that sometimes it's very difficult to know what is past, what is now present. Sometimes what you think is future is already dead when you are trying to consider it as, for example, technologies. So it's quite difficult, but for example, the idea I have is in the past, big data maybe was already there. The problem was that it was so difficult in computing, there was not the technology or the techniques or the computing resources to analyze. So you already had the data that maybe can give you all the information or insights that you can get from it, but it was not possible. So you were exploring the data manually, trying to find relations in between different variables and everything. And in the present, I think that when Hadoop started and all the technologies on top of Hadoop and all the NoSQL technologies, so it allows you to really analyze a lot of data and connect different data sources, or analyze and structure data sources, connect everything together and try to have a global or a better overview of your data and see how the relations are. So I think that now we are trying to adapt to that. Well, there are several companies like Google or Facebook. They are a little bit a step ahead of most of us. So they might be in the future, but for us. But usually it's very difficult to say that we are exploiting those technologies at 100%. It's very difficult. You can't have the architecture, the technology, but then you need to find the very good use case and to explore it and to confirm that what you are doing really gives you results. The future, I think, is going to be a little bit easier because now we might have also the problem of the implementation of the architecture and the knowledge of you have to learn how to do it, how to analyze your data. But now things are getting easier in the sense that, for example, the architecture, you don't need now even know how to administer maybe a Hadoop cluster or any of the technologies that is on top for the analytics. You can go to the cloud, sign up, and you can say, I want, I don't know, 10 nodes, and you can use it. And you don't even need to know about that part. So that is less complexity that you have. And now there are more technologies like Spark, and so you might have analytics and explore big data, and you don't even need to know about map reviews that it was needed at the beginning. Now you might not even know what it is. Well, you might know it, but you don't have to know how to program in map reviews because you will use higher level APIs and frameworks that will allow you to do all of this, but without knowing that. So the future, I think, is very difficult to know. It's quite funny because every day you look, there is something new, and then you have to reconsider, okay, maybe am I exploring the wrong one? Maybe this one is the future, or maybe that one is not going to have the acceptation everywhere. So it's quite difficult to yeah.
Totally agreed. I think the pace at which Hadoop ecosystem is moving, it's very difficult to predict what's going to be happening in future. I mean, we are hearing trends like approximate databases. I mean, we'll probably cover some of them, but thanks for your perspective. Amit, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and what Adicent has been doing from a big data perspective to the audience.
Hi, I'm Amit Jain. I work for Adicent Technologies. So my organization primarily works in the areas of cloud computing and big data. So we are continuously exploring and researching on the upcoming technologies and building capabilities so that we can provide the best possible solution for our customers. So we are a services organization. So we are always in the quest for finding the best possible solution so that we can satisfy the needs of the customers. Now coming to the panel topic of past, present and future. So I fully agree. It's very hard to predict what is going to happen in future. But let me give it a try starting from the past. So if I go 15 years back in time and I ask someone, okay, what kind of data problems you are facing? They'll say data is a solved problem. Because we had RDBMS, Oracle and so many others, which was able to satisfy most of the needs of data we had. And we had sophisticated tools around those RDBMS databases, and life was good, right? Until we were encountered with such plethora of devices, right? The Internet of Things started happening a few years back, and post that was mobile devices which were producing continuous data. There were traffic cameras everywhere, so which were producing variety of data. So now we are not just talking about structured data which can be stored conveniently in the form of RDBMS tables, right? Now I'm looking at data which is video. Some data is coming which is a tweet. Some data I'm getting from Facebook. So those are all unstructured data. I cannot use the regular RDBMS stuff to either store data or run SQL queries on that, right? So I'm encountering a newer problem to solve. So that's how we moved into the Hadoop era, I would say. So now Hadoop gave us the MapReduce ideas, and then even that moved on to Spark-based approaches. Of course, MapReduce still stays for solving specific MapReduce type of problems. So it's what I'm trying to draw is we are continuously innovating, and to tell about the future, it's very hard to predict, because the moment somebody makes a prediction, within few days of time, somebody comes with a disruptive innovation and everything changes, right? So that's the most interesting part, which keeps me excited about technologies. Now, what I see as a challenge to solve through big data, to take the big data to the next level is, currently we apply big data to specific data sets and try to come up with some deeper insights into it. The next level would be to take data sets from all kinds of areas. Let's say I take an individual, right? So he spends money in say shopping malls. So I want to keep a track of that data. He sends kids to certain schools. He works in certain companies and does certain kind of technology work. So I want to keep a track of that. By assimilating all the information about that individual, I'll be able to make very accurate predictions about what he is going to buy next or what he's going to do next and all such things. So that is something which probably big data should start looking at, and I'm sure a lot of research must be happening in those areas. And the moment we start looking into those areas, there is another challenge that comes: data privacy, right? So the moment I get into deeper and deeper insights into individual's behavior, I start getting into his personal life, and that's where people start saying, okay, no, don't bother me, you are intruding on my privacy. So these are some of the challenges we have to solve. Now how they would be solved, it's yet to evolve, but some of the things could be some kind of standards body can come up with the standards on what kind of data should be considered purely private and what kind of data should be left to individuals to opt for. So I can say that I am willing to reveal the information regarding where my kids go for education, or where I work, or what areas I work in. But I may not be willing to reveal some other aspects of my personal life.
Sure. I think, Amit, I think you touched upon another point, which is especially with respect to social media, explosion of data coming in
Yes.
from social aspects. You know, the privacy aspect of the big data is going to be a big area of
Yes.
concern. So we'll certainly talk about some of the challenges. But if we can go to Krishna Kumar and hear Krishna's perspective from SAP.
Yeah. As he said, my name is Krishna Kumar. People call me KK. So I am with SAP Labs for the last 14 years. 10 years mostly in standard development, and the last 4 years with the custom development. We make solutions for the customers on top of the SAP standard product. So SAP's offering in terms of big data, as you all know, is HANA, SAP HANA. You would see this buzzword everywhere. Now coming to this topic, past, present and future. Past, if I would look back some 2 decades back, when my father was working in a textile company, he worked for Majora Coats. So he worked 35 years. So in the last 3 years of his career, the company felt that he is the senior most person and he should not be doing some tasks which are physically intensive. So they put him in a quality management department. So he knew everything about the fabric and thread and everything. So there I used to visit his office. At that time, when computers were very less used, there was a job given to one of the workers there. His job is to go around the factory, pick up these thread spindles, take random samples, bring it to the quality management team, and there he used to tie it through a spring which used to have some measuring devices that would pull the thread and measure the tenosity of the thread. At some point it would break. So that's how they would use the manual way of checking quality of a thread. So this was his job 8 hours a day. So he used to go, bring the thread, tie it, rotate it, and it breaks, and he threw it and then bring the next thread. So I was wondering what kind of motivation this person would have. And with the advent of computers and automation, one of the big companies from Bangalore provided them a solution, which was a machine which used to take all the spindles, he used to load them, and it used to suck through vacuum the end of the thread from a spindle, and it used to pull it as much as possible. At the point it breaks, it used to bring that data back to a computer. And computer means a 486 machine. And they were not storing several GBs of data. But the challenge at that time was, earlier he used to write all this in a notebook, a big fat notebook. Somebody used to come and say which was red, which was yellow, which was green. Their challenge as soon as computers started noting this data was how to query this. Suppose should I note this on a daily basis or an hourly basis, what kind of report? So the UI was the biggest problem. How to take this data, raw data, and present it was the biggest struggle those days. This was 90s and before. Now we went through a long way. RDBMS took its shape. We defined every possible step in database technologies. Now what do I see? Now we see big data. Now I have been all through my career, whenever a new batch joins, I used to talk about the concepts of locking, the definitions of the key, the impact of a wrong key definition in a database table, the impact of a wrong data type used in a field. And all these concepts we used to teach for hours together. Now with that advent of how to insert, how many records to insert at a time, when to buffer, when not to buffer and all that, all this became irrelevant. Now you can pull back several GBs, several millions of records from the database, show it on the UI, you don't need to buffer, everything is real time. So what you teach the youngsters have completely changed. The concepts of what was emphasized on databases have completely changed. We started with HANA a few years back. One of the very stunning examples which we saw was a company which was an early pioneer in adoption of HANA. This is a European company. They are in the manufacturing of scents and fragrances used by people. So everybody would be wondering why a scent bottle would cost some $300 or $500. If you go to an airport, you will find what is the reason behind it. Because the chemicals used should be certified whether it is applicable for humans or not. So if you would have 3 chemicals X, Y and Z, now the usage of X and its impact on Y and its impact on Z. So the number of combinations. Now each chemical with a different set of attributes in a different temperature, in a different